Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 24th Feb. The news items that we have picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 13. We'll look at them in detail. The first one, record olive ridley nesting baffles wildlife experts. So these are olive ridley turtles which are mass nesting along the Rushikulia coast in Orissa presently. So this is a record, 3.8 lakh olive ridley turtles mass nesting. Whereas last year there was no mass nesting at this site at all. So this has baffled the wildlife experts that what is the reason. Now Orissa coast, the mass nesting of olive ridley takes place in other regions also. So other prominent region is the Gahirmatha beach. Even Rushikulia, this is the river which drains out here, and the beach, Rukari coast, which is formed here, where olive ridley turtles mass nest. So actually Orissa coast is the largest mass nesting site of olive ridley turtles in the world. The other prominent site is in Central America, Mexico, Costa Rica. So that coast is the second largest. So it takes place in other places, that's what. But in this particular place, why there was no mass nesting last year and there's a record breaking mass nesting this year is a question. So it is speculated that the reason is especially the salinity of the beach and the sea near the coast. So this Rushikulia river is freshwater. So when it drains out into Bay of Bengal along the Orissa coast, when it drains out, it mixes with the saline water. But what it has been seen this year is a sandbar has emerged at the mouth of Rushikulia river. So sandbar is a depositionary feature of a river. So deposits which take place results in a sandbar. Means it blocks the mouth of the river. So that means the salinity, fresh water and the saline water would not mix so much and directly, and that would result in salinity remaining low, and that is preferable for these olive ridley turtles here. So that is there. So lower salinity also helps in the other small fish and insects surviving there, which are the source of food for these olive ridley turtles. Also, if they have come for mass nesting, so they lay their eggs, even the eggshells would corrode if the salinity is high. So these reasons are there that they prefer lower salinity. But then the baffling question actually is that how do these olive ridley turtles know about the salinity of that soil? So this sensing superpower is being studied. So that is the news here. About the olive ridley turtles, other thing which you should know is they do mass nesting, and they have the term also olive. This is the olive green color which they have, the shell here, rounded heart shaped shell which they have here on top. That is the color olive, because of which they get this name also. The scientific name is Lepidocallis olivacea. So they are smallest and the most abundant of all sea turtles in the world. They found in warm waters along in the Pacific, Atlantic and Indian Ocean. The females come on the beach to mass nest. So that is one specific feature which they have. They are vulnerable on the IUCN Red List, means International Union for Conservation of Nature. So it provides this red list of the conservation status of various species. Flora as well as fauna, means birds, means plants as well as animals, birds and animals. So it goes from vulnerable, threatened, endangered, critically endangered, and eventually it may go extinct also. So they are categorized as such. So olive ridley turtles actually internationally are vulnerable, categorized as vulnerable, but in India they are considered endangered. So that is there. Also international trade of these turtles is banned under CITES, that is Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. So that is also not allowed. It is generally caught for the flesh also, the meat of the turtles. So that is there. Mass nesting, the term used for this mass nesting, it's also called aribada. So olive ridley turtles mass nest. Another similar species, Kemp's ridley turtle, they're called cousin of olive ridley. They are also known for this unique mass nesting feature where thousands of females come together on the same beach to lay their eggs. So around 6 lakhs or more females will come from the waters and they lay their eggs for around 5 to 7 days. So that mass nesting takes place. And after that, for that mass nesting, these eggs are also not just laid on the beach. A pit is dug. So this digging takes place around 1 to 1.5 feet deep. Pit is dug with their hind flippers. They dig this and then they lay their eggs. And after about 45 to 65 days, the eggs begin to hatch and the hatchlings come out and they make their way to the ocean. So this on the way to many olive ridley, the hatchlings also do not survive. So they are also there fear is there of various predators, other animals which eat them up, like birds, jackals, hyenas, and also they are threatened by the human activities as well. So human activities along the coast affect them as well. Especially the most prominent way in which it affects them is the fishing. So fisheries, in this fishing, they accidentally get entangled in trawl nets, gill nets, and that results in many of them losing their lives. Adult turtles being affected. So that's why even in Odisha, the Odisha government has made it mandatory that trawlers are these nets which are used behind the sea. They use these nets which spread out and the fishes are caught. So in these trawls, they should use turtle excluder devices. So then the net is designed in such a way that exit is allowed, turtles can escape while the catch is retained. But of course, some other fish may also be lost, but then that is very small proportion actually. So it is mandatory in Odisha that the fishermen use this turtle excluder devices. So that is there. Also in India, fencing of the nesting area takes place. So this is done by the World Wildlife Federation India. So they provide this nesting fencing facility also. So they ensure that the adult turtles as well as the hatchlings are not affected by human activities during this mating season, mass nesting season, and then they finally can survive. So that is there. Also other activities, even construction near to the beaches, tourist centers here, ports, etc. also affect these olive ridley turtles. That is regarding them. This is the Odisha coast. Rushikulia river is here. This is the Rushikulia Rookery coast presently in use, where mass nesting took place this year. Then there are other places also. You can see this is the Gahirmatha coast. So this is also known for olive ridley mass nesting. Then the next news item is Myanmar delegation visits Mizoram. So this is a delegation from Myanmar, members of parliament of Arakan National Party from Myanmar. They have visited Mizoram to study the federal system of the country in India. What is the federal system and how especially these areas which are inhabited by minority communities too, how are they administered? There are special administrative provisions provided for them. So they will be studied that how the federal structure functions here, because Myanmar is also transiting. It was under the Janta government, military rule, and now democracy has been brought in. So they will study the federal system in the country here. So that is there. They say they want to know how peace was achieved in Mizoram, which was earlier reeling under insurgency. So northeast, we see there are various parts of northeast under insurgency, but then Mizoram is one place which had stayed calm presently. So you can see the Nagas, they were the first to raise the banner of insurgency. So this Naga, they want greater Nagalim, an independent Naga homeland for them. So they had started their fight. Even their leader, Fizo, he had gone to London and declared an independent Naga homeland too in 1956. Then others are, this is regarding other organizations too. In Assam also we have Alpha, United Liberation Front of Assam. So there are these separatist organizations prominent there in northeast. So they are a threat in the country. But Mizoram, so you can see of all the 7 states, Mizoram is the only island of peace with no major terror outfit active now. So here also there were terror outfits. There were this Mizo National Front as such. But then a Mizoram Accord was signed with the government of India in 1986 and peace was brought in. So that is there regarding Mizoram. You can see in 1966 Air Force planes dropped bombs in Mizoram to check the unprecedented attack by Mizo National Army. So this was the Mizo National Front, which had overrun the Aizawl treasury. So Mizoram capital is Aizawl. So this was the first and only time that the Indian Air Force had been used to attack Indians in India. So this is in 1966, but now it is quiet. Then the next news item is nod for road widening in sanctuary opposed. So this is National Board for Wildlife which has given its nod, that it said yes for construction in this road widening which will take place in the buffer zone of Nagarjuna Sagar Srisailam Tiger Reserve. This is the largest tiger reserve in the country. So this has been approved. It's a buffer zone, means not the core area, the area beyond, but then of course it affects the animals here. And the ecologically sensitive zone which is there, Gunla Brahmeshwar Wildlife Sanctuary. So this is in Andhra Pradesh. Nagarjuna Sagar Srisailam Tiger Reserve is shared presently between Andhra and Telangana. So this buffer zone extension or road widening as such will result in the habitat being fragmented also, and it may lead to displacement of some species also. That's why the voice is being raised against this activity in wildlife sanctuaries and tiger reserves. So National Board for Wildlife we have done earlier too. It's a statutory body established under Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Though it is an advisory body, but then it's the apex body which decides on various wildlife related matters, approves projects as we see presently too in and around national parks and sanctuaries. And Nagarjuna Sagar Sisalam Tiger Reserve, largest tiger reserve in India. There are spread over 5 districts, out of which 2 are in Telangana, 3 in Andhra. Total area you can see 3,568 square kilometers, out of which core area is 1,200 square kilometers. So that is there. It has reservoirs and temples also there in Srisalam, which are a major attraction for tourists and pilgrims. So human activity is also there. That is why road widening is also taking place in the buffer area, but it will affect the animal species there. The next news item is fire destroys precious flora and fauna in Adilabad. So this Adilabad and Nirmal districts in Telangana had forest fire, which has resulted in hundreds of hectares of land being affected, and it went on for 5 days unnoticed. So the forest officials, because its temperatures are quite high, so during this time the temperatures go quite high, and forest officials are also not there patrolling or coming to know. There's no technology in place that would make sure that this forest fire is known to them. So it goes on for 5 days and then it is detected. Is a huge tragedy. So the speculation is that it may have been caused because of dry leaves being set on fire by BD leaf contractors there, or even the farmers who try to expand their fields by setting the forests on fire. So it is speculated, still not known, but the fire went on for 5 days. The causes and effects we have seen quite often. We know it will result in loss of biodiversity to global warming as well. Social effect too, because wood, food, medicines which are obtained from these forests would be destroyed. So economically also it would affect the population there. Then the next news item is fluorosis haunts Nopada as government looks the other way. So this is Nopada district in Odisha. So here around 20 years ago, it had been known that a large population here is suffering from fluorosis. So fluorosis is because of the presence of fluoride in the drinking water. So this is beyond permissible limit. Permissible limit of fluorosis is 1.5 parts per million. But then in Nopada, it is seen that it varies from 0.14 low levels of fluorosis till 7.2 parts per million. So it's quite high. So this in adults it results in skeletal fluorosis. So it deforms the bones and causes pain. So they cannot straighten up. In children below 15 years of age, it causes dental fluorosis. So the mottling of teeth takes place. So this is a huge disaster which is there in Nopada district in Odisha, and for that what needs to be done is that piped water supply has to be provided. So these projects have been initiated, but still lack of electricity results in projects not functioning effectively. Projects which have been approved too, there are around 21 mega PWS projects, piped water supply projects approved, but they have not yet been taken off. So even after 20 years, the status is still calling for action. So this is regarding Nopada. 60% of the residents are scheduled tribes and suffering from poverty and starvation. So this is the first report came in 1985. People here were suffering from fluorosis. So first case of fluorosis also. First reports of fluorosis detected. First case of fluorosis was diagnosed in this region. And still, after the mega pipeline projects, not a single project has taken off to yet. So this is there. Even NABARD has approved various mega pipe water projects for these fluoride affected regions, but again the results on the site are minimal or rather nil. So that is there. You can see the habitations here and how many are affected because of fluorides content being high. That is there. So this is regarding fluorosis in Nopada. So this is the deposition of fluorides which takes place in the body, which affects, we saw, the bones and the teeth. The next news item is GPS CCTV must in school buses. So this is CBSE, Central Board of Secondary Education. It has written to all affiliated schools that all school buses should be fitted with speed governors. So the limit of speed should be 40 km/h for school buses. Also GPS and CCTV devices should be there compulsorily in all school buses. And apart from the driver, who should have at least 5 years of experience, and a conductor, all buses should have a woman guard as well. So that is there. Even buses should have first aid kits and provision for drinking water. And finally, no school bus must have any curtain or films on the windows. So that is there. So violation of these guidelines, it has said it would result in disaffiliation of the school also. And the management and head of the CBSE affiliated school would be held responsible if there are any lapses. This is the CBSE letter going to all schools. So we see various incidents taking place in school buses affecting the safety of the children here. So these steps are being taken. The next news item is Naga Accord is still in the works. So this is R.N. Ravi, who was an interlocutor in the Naga peace talks, means who was facilitating these peace talks. So government appoints interlocutors who facilitate them, work on for the government to make sure that the peace talks result in agreements, peace accord being signed. And this peace accord was signed with the Naga group, NSC and IM, National Socialist Council of Nagaland, Isak Movia. So this peace accord was signed in August 2015 in a much publicized ceremony at Prime Minister Narendra Modi's residence. So this was to find a lasting solution to the Naga issue. We just saw up to that in Naga, the Fizo, the leader then, had declared independent Nagaland in 1960s in London. He had fled to London, and from there he had declared this. So this demand is still there. And Naga population is there not just in Nagaland but in the adjoining states also in Northeast. Assam, Manipur, Arunachal Pradesh, they have a sizable Naga population. So this Naga peace accord being signed, no details have come out. What was the framework agreement signed? Presently, the interlocutor R.N. Ravi, he says that Naga accord is still in the works because the agreement signed was on just the minimal points as such. The details have not yet been filled up. So it was just a half a page agreement which was signed then. So it is still being worked on is what he says. So another point which is there with respect to this is the United Naga Council. So it is, we have discussed this also quite often. It is affiliated to this NSC and IM, and it has put an economic blockade in Manipur since November 2016, and it is still going on, and Manipur is going to have its state legislative assembly elections presently. So the 7 new districts which were carved out, they were affecting the Naga population in Manipur. So that is why they were protesting against this and declared an economic blockade. So here again, this is a deadlock here. So this, and that's why center was also brought in here to have negotiations. Means Manipur center and United Naga Council have trilateral talks, because already with NSC and IM, to whom UNC is affiliated, center has signed a peace accord, but then still no breakthrough came. So that was the case here. So this is regarding the Naga struggle too. What are their demands and what they want? So this started since independence only. So Naga National Council was declared independence on 14th August 1947 only. Means before India gained independence, it declared that we are independent. So this AZ Fizo is a prominent leader was a prominent leader from Nagaland. So under him, this Naga National Council was established. So he is the prominent leader. And then Khatri agreement was signed. So this was considered between India and the Naga leader here. So this was considered as offering sovereignty to Naga National Council. So, but then later armed insurgency began in NNC and it resulted in AFSPA being brought in here too. And finally, when Nagaland was created as a separate state in 1963 and a ceasefire agreement was signed, so peace came in but did not last long. Again, NSC and IM was formed in 1980s. So after that, they also split. NSC and IM, NSC and K were 2 factions which were formed. IM is the one which signed ceasefire agreement. NSC and K also signed ceasefire agreement but did not last. It broke that. And now presently again, Naga peace accord by NSC and IM has been signed with the government. So how would this go ahead now is the thing. What they want is Greater Nagaland. So actually Greater Nagaland includes not just Nagaland but the adjoining states, regions also. So that is the huge question, that how would Greater Nagaland be formed, even if they don't want complete independence from India, but even if they want a separate state being formed. So these regions would lose out on their places with the Raja there under them. So that is the whole question. That's why opposition parties and others want to know what is this Naga Peace Accord which has presently been signed to. Is it affecting the territorial integrity of these states as well? Then the next news item is India, Israel to develop missile for army. So this is a deal which has been jointly been discussed. So this is for medium range surface to air missile. So this will be procured for the army. It's a 17,000 crore deal which has been approved by the Cabinet Committee on Security. So this is a Cabinet Committee headed by Prime Minister himself. So this deal will be executed by DRDO and Israel Aircraft Industries. So these surface to air missiles, we have already, other variants of these have been acquired for the Navy and the Air Force. So this is a deal for the army now. So these will be jointly developed with Israeli help. They are based on the old Barak system also, which we have procured from Israel only. And this also consists of around 200 missiles with a range of 50 to 70 kilometers. So these are surface to air missiles being procured. And for these present deal, it would be 80% indigenous content used, and it will be manufactured in India. So Make in India in defense is being brought in here also. Delivery is expected in around 2023. Also, apart from this, we have also acquired or plan. I have been negotiating purchase of 2 more Falcons. So we have already purchased 3 Falcon. Falcon is AWACS, Airborne Warning and Control System. So 3 have already been procured, and they are mounted on Russian IL-76 transport aircraft. So these are airborne warning and control system. So from on this spacecraft aircraft as such, it is being on this aircraft. It is being radar as such, which is used like a radar. Israeli radars these are, which are mounted and they can move. So radars are also targeted by the enemies during wars or such. So if the radars are movable and are on the aircraft, they can escape and move away. So that is why these radars are being procured and they'll be mounted on these Russian transport aircraft. Even the Russian transport aircraft have been ordered. So 2 Falcons have also been planned to be purchased, and these IL-76 aircraft from Russia have also been ordered. Russian officials have said at the Aero India, India has already ordered these 2 IL-76 aircraft. So this is another deal which has been approved by the Cabinet Committee on Security presently. So this is regarding India-Israel relations too. So we established diplomatic relations with Israel as late as in 1992. And since then, defense ties have been improving, and Israel has become a major defense partner, even replacing Russia. So Russia was the major defense partner. So you can see US, Russia, Israel has been 3rd largest, but now it has taken over these 2 too. So that is there. Then this is the missile defense system, which we have signed. Missile defense system is this only what we are talking about, the surface to air missiles. Sure. So these are defense systems. So Barak based model which is there. So for Air Force, Navy, it has already been procured, and now for Army, we have decided to buy them. And this is regarding the Falcon, Airborne Warning and Control System, mounted on IL-76. The other things, major other deals are anti-tank guided missiles. So India is contracting these Spike anti-tank guided missiles from Israel. Then even spy drones is what we want from Israel. So these have also been inducted, 100 Israeli drones and the radars. Then the next news item is universities to compete with IITs, IIMs in ranking. So this is National Institutional Ranking Framework. So this has been put in place, NIRF, by the Ministry of Human Resource Development. This was put in place last year only. So last year was the first NIRF ranking in which different categories of colleges were ranked differently. It means engineering colleges, then business colleges, various universities. There were separate categories. But this year now, all central and state universities will have a single ranking taking place, including also IITs and IIMs. So there will be a single official ranking, but then they will be differentiated. There will be different parameters on which they would be ranked. So, and even the basis of what category they belong to, there will be subcategorization also done as such. So this you can see, teaching and learning resources. one category. Second is research and professional practice, graduation outcome, that what jobs do the children get, graduates get out of them, outreach and inclusivity, and perception. So based on this, ranking would be given and there will be a single list prepared. So that is there. Last year it was IIT Madras topping in engineering colleges, IIM Bangalore in business schools, and in universities also there were these JNU, Hyderabad, University of Delhi among the top ranks. This is there, the various parameters on which they would be accessed. The sub parameters are also shown here. The next news item is US scraps protection for transgender students. So this was a federal law which had been brought by the Obama administration, which said that million people are on brink of famine. So this is UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres who has raised an alarm that 4 specific regions which are on the brink of famine. One region has already had, one country has some region declared as suffering from famine by the United Nations. So these are northern Nigeria, Somalia, Yemen, and parts in southern Sudan. South Sudan. So South Sudan is the latest country being formed and the latest member of United Nations too. So famine was declared in Somalia too in July 2011. Around 260,000 people have died in a 2-month period. So he says that there is excess of food in the world. World is filled with excess of food. Still there are 20 million people on the brink of famine, out of which 1.4 million are children. But then steps cannot be taken because also these regions are suffering from war and conflict. So that is the reason why even assistance cannot reach them. Even the workers, social activist workers there are also being targeted. So they risk their own lives. Even in some regions, it is not even estimated how many are suffering from famine. So that is the case here. What are the categories? 3 criteria are there when famine is declared by United Nations. So it says one is when 1 in 5 households in a certain area face extreme food shortages. Second is more than 30% of the population is acutely malnourished. And the last one is at least 2 people for every 10,000 die each day. At least 2 people for every 10,000. So this is the criteria. So many regions, he says, are on the verge of famine. So then the reasons he says that the crisis continues is that one, because there's not enough money. United Nations, he says, needs $5.6 billion to address the needs, but only 2% of the money is what it has presently. And other point he highlights is that all countries, all these 4 countries are facing the threat of famine are actually under conflict. So in many instances, the leaders of these warring parties are blocking aid workers also from delivering relief where it is most needed. So that is what he says. And these 4 countries specifically are being discussed here, the situation there. So in Somalia, it is the Al-Shabaab terrorist organization. So in 2011, the situation was, it was famine declared. Now it has subsided, but then Al-Shabaab terrorist organization has been brought down. Still, it is there present in vast pockets of Somalia. So there have been 2 consecutive years of drought as well in Somalia. So this is Somalia. You can see food shortages here. This is Somalia here, east of Africa. This is called Horn of Africa. So this region, this is the Yemen region in Central Asia, West Asia. So that is there. Then second country is South Sudan. Here also 1 lakh people are affected by famine and it is suffering from civil war. South Sudan we had discussed few days back too. So here also North South Sudan there are conflicts. This is the Abyei region which is yet not decided and they're fighting over this region too. Within South Sudan also there have been many groups who are fighting against the government. So that is, they say that the government is corrupt and inefficient and they want to bring the government down. So that results in unrest in the country. So South Sudan is suffering. It was already a poor nation, a poor malnourished nation and a newly formed nation, and now civil war going on would result in further problems for the population here and on the verge of famine. Then third is Nigeria. So Nigeria here, the military group powerful in northern Nigeria is Boko Haram. So here also there is probably famine in 2 towns, but then even traveling in this region is quite dangerous for the aid workers also. Even they are unable to verify the levels of hunger here, let alone deliver relief. So Boko Haram is known for its terrorist activities. This is Nigeria, you can see here in this part of Africa. So this northern Nigeria is affected by this Boko Haram, which is a terrorist organization. Here in Chibok, there were school girls who were abducted. This was a prominent incident which had taken place a few years back. Then the last one is Yemen. So in Yemen, the biggest crisis is because a coalition led by Saudi Arabia and backed by USA is battling the Houthi rebels here, and Yemen is under civil war. So Yemen is here, you can see. This was Somalia here. This is Yemen here. So this Yemen region is also suffering because of this Houthi insurgency and the Saudi Arabia bringing its forces, coalition here, fighting them. So the people suffer eventually. The next news item is China aware of petrol in South China Sea. So this is China's defense minister who is saying that we are aware of the presence of US aircraft carrier strike group in South China Sea. So they say that we respect freedom of navigation for all countries in the waters. So they're showing that we are aware and we are not taking any action. We know we uphold freedom of navigation. So that is the viewpoint given by China. And US Navy says that this is a routine operation which takes place in South China Sea. So South China Sea is under dispute. China claims almost the entire of South China Sea. So you can see this is a 9-dash line which China claims completely belonging to it. The prominent islands here are these Paracel Island group of islands, Spratly Islands, and this Scarborough Shoal. So they have been overlapping claims are there. This is the UN clause under United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea. 200 nautical miles beyond your coastline is provided to various countries. So Vietnam has this as 200 nautical miles. And each country's 200 nautical miles are shown, and China actually overlaps with all these claims of other countries, and it is dominating here. It is also developing artificial islands here. So that is the dispute in South China Sea. So South China Sea, it's an important trade route, which trade route passes through this. Plus also there is a huge amount of oil and resources estimated in South China Sea. So because of which China is trying to have its claim over the entire region. You can see Taiwan claims Spratly Islands. Paracel Islands are claimed by Vietnam. Philippines claims this region. Even Scarborough Shoal claimed by Philippines and also by China. So that way. Malaysia also claims Spratly Islands. Brunei claims this part as its exclusive economic zone. So this is the 9-dash line, and these you can see Spratly Islands here. These are scattered islands and reefs, and these circles you can see are the reefs China is building into artificial islands. Then the next news item is legally vetted pact on services tabled at WTO. So this is the last news item. So we had already discussed this. WTO head was on a visit in India, and we had said that we would put forth formally a proposal for trade facilitation and services agreement, and this proposal has now been put forth by India at WTO. So it has been submitted to WTO. It will be looked into by them, and then it will be put in front of all the members of WTO, and once it is approved and signed by all, ratified by all, it can come into effect. So trade facilitation in services, it is looking at facilitating the movement of skilled workers across the border for short-term work. Also, the social security protection should be provided to them. This we have already discussed, that if they are working short-term in one country and then they go back to their home country, then the social security deductions which are done for pensions, etc., they should be transferable. So that aspect is also being put into this trade facilitation services. India says that this is on the same lines as trade facilitation agreement in goods, which was recently, it has come into effect. In Feb 2017, it entered into force. So this trade facilitation agreement in services is not a new issue which is brought in, but it is only facilitation. So we are against, because Doha round of talks have not been concluded. So developing countries are against bringing in any new issue. But this TFA was signed, it became an agreement, WTO ratified by all WTO members. So it came into effect because signed by all WTO members. So this came into effect because it was said this is not a new issue, this is only facilitation. So what this also wanted was making market access effective and commercially meaningful. Not having any new market access means what is already allowed should be more effective. That way, nothing new to be allowed, no tariff reduction as such, but custom facilitation was required. So customs was one place in which there was too much of hindrances, especially in developing countries, because of which trade was not facilitated. So if customs activities had to be brought in, streamlined as such, then it would facilitate trade. So that is the agreement, basically what TFA in goods was about. So on the same lines, we are saying trade facilitation in services is also not demanding any new market access or anything. Whatever agreements, whatever provisions are already there, that should be facilitated further. So that is the justification which we are also giving for our agreement proposed by us. So that is it. TFA in goods, you can see, adopted by WTO members in 2014, came into effect in 2017 now. So it will streamline, simplify and standardize customs procedures. So it will help cut trade costs around the world. So that's what they said, it will benefit developing as well as developed countries. So that is it. Thank you.